Hello and welcome to We Random, episode 22. We just finished the first round of the playoffs, and I'm sorry, Chicago Bears fans, you're no longer around. Are we surprised by this? No, none of us are. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, so stick around.
Almost Qualified Productions. We're 3 beers in. Time for you to catch up.
Welcome to We Random, episode 22. I am Brian. That's Christopher. Say hello to the people, Christopher.
Hello, people.
Now, before we get too deep into this podcast, I want to correct one thing that you said in the open. Mr. Sad Trombonsky, Mitchell Trubisky, he didn't walk away a full loser. He walked away with the Nickelodeon player of the game. He was the MVP, baby.
Of a game they lost?
Of a game they lost.
Get out of here.
All those children voted for Mitchell Trubisky as the Nickelodeon valuable player of the game.
Well, I think that just summarizes what we all already knew. Kids are kind of dumb. I'm sorry, I'm saying it. That's just how it is. Clearly, kids are kind of dumb.
Well, thankfully, we, like not Mitchell Trubisky, are on to this week. And this week, we have a lot of topics for you. But again, we have to start. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Washington, D.C. So what do you say, Christopher? Should we get this kicked off and tell the people what's happened since we left them last week?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right. So since we last talked with you on We Random here, there's been a lot that has happened. I'm sure you've seen most of it. For those of you who have not, I'm jealous of you because there's been a lot and it's been kind of all across
Insane.
the board, right? So the first thing that we're going to talk about, we're kind of calling this like U.S. Capitol riots fallout, right? And I think that at some point, there we go, you can see it on the board. But so U.S. Capitol riots fallout. The big thing that happened, the first kind of domino that fell was around President Donald Trump and big tech. So as part of the fallout from the U.S. Capitol riots, President Donald Trump was banned from using some of the biggest social media platforms in America, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitch.
I think that he also had his OnlyFans suspended as well. Just throwing that out there.
That's pretty sad. I did read an article about how some people on OnlyFans were having some trouble making money this year. So I'm guessing that, maybe that money was going to Trump and then they had to shut him down so other people could get that money. But
it could be, yeah.
But speaking of Trump's money, he lost contracts he had with the PGA events. The e-commerce company Shopify stopped helping run his online Trump store, and several banks that had previously lended to Trump and his companies, such as Deutsche Bank, have reportedly said they would no longer lend to Trump. So it seems like one of the things that has come out from the fallout of the Capitol riots is that there's a lot of private industry companies that are not taking his actions or inactions to the riots well. Do you have any initial thoughts about that, Christopher?
It's going to shock you, but I do. There's two main thoughts that I have on this. So the first is, this is a really good sign, and this is a big sign that actions have consequences. If you do stupid shit's going to happen, right? The results are going to happen. And that's what a lot of this is, right? I mean, when you are a main push behind an insurrection in your country, people are going to stop wanting to be associated with you in any way, shape, or form. And I think this is a sign of that. It's something that Trump's never really had to deal with because he could always buy his way out of everything. And so it's good to see people finally is the key word, stepping up. Finally is that second part. What did it actually really take staging an insurrection at the fucking U.S. Capitol building before people realized this guy was way the fuck over the line? Like that's the insane part, right? All of this stuff should have happened years ago. Years ago, this should have happened, and it never did. And it's not a surprise that not only was it the one big culminating event that led to this, right, to some degree. I promise you, a big reason why this happened now wasn't just because the Capitol happened, but because he's got 2 weeks and now he's got what, a week left in office. That's what's ultimately doing it, right? They wouldn't have, if he would have ransacked the Capitol with his, mindless zombies a year ago, I will guarantee you a lot of this would not have happened. But they know that there's very little blowback that they're going to get because he's going to be leaving office in a week. And yeah, he's still going to be an ex-president. He's still going to have the Trump name. He's still going to have all of that. But he's not going to be the current president of the United States. And that's a big thing that people are avoiding by now finally taking a stand.
Right, and I would agree with that. And I think one of the things that we've seen for years is that big tech has been very slow to act in a lot of these cases unless it is in their immediate benefit, right? So, thinking about Twitter and thinking about Facebook in particular, you look at Facebook. If you go back to the situation with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, where he was in this community on Facebook, like the Kenosha militia or whatever they called themselves. And then he decided to come up to Kenosha, and we all know what happened there. Facebook, even now, admits that they were too slow in shutting that shit down.
Right.
And the reason that they were too slow in shutting that shit down is because it would have been worse for them to try to shut that down because they didn't think anything bad was going to happen, but it did. And
Right.
this is kind of the same thing with Donald Trump. Honestly, Trump is probably one of the top 10 people on Twitter. Like, as far as when people think about Twitter,
Used to be.
right. But what I'm saying is that when people thought about Twitter,
Yeah.
Trump is one of the people who was associated. He was a brand ambassador for them.
Yeah.
So now, before everything that happened in the US Capitol, people, had their mixed opinions about Trump and whatever, but not as many people saw him in this dangerous light that they see him in now. And all of a sudden that dangerous light makes Twitter look bad. And Twitter says, "Nope, we're not dealing with that. We're not having him associated with our name." And that's what made them pull this switch too.
Well, for sure. I mean, 30 years ago, if you wanted to hear what President Ronald Reagan said, they would take over every news station in the country and he would broadcast that saying something, right? Or it would show up front page of the newspaper the following day. But now, if you want to, 2 weeks ago, if you wanted to know what the president was talking about, you had to be on Twitter. So I guarantee you there was a bunch of people that were on Twitter solely to see what this guy would say, whether from the comical aspect, because the guy is an idiot, or from a political aspect, I just want to hear what he says when he says it, or from a support aspect. There's a bunch of people that signed up for Twitter just because of him. And don't think that Jack Dorsey and his cronies didn't think about that when it came time to start to censor him.
For sure. And I think this is probably a good opportunity to kind of transition into the next piece for Donald Trump, because being fired into the sun from most of these apps probably wasn't the worst part of his week. So he actually had, for the second time in his term, articles of impeachment filed against him. And the House of Representatives voted to impeach Trump for the second time in his presidency, this time for inciting an insurrection at the US Capitol. Now, a lot has gone on about this. There was a big long meeting in the House. There was lots of debate, and it came out basically that the Senate trial is not going to happen until Trump has already left office. And that's something that a lot of people are like, well, if he's already going to be out of office, why are you doing this? What's happening? But just based on the timeline of when the Senate meets and what's going on, Mitch McConnell was like, look, it's not going to happen. We'll make it happen once we're back in regular session. Now, there's a lot of things with the impeachment hearing in the House that I feel like are important to talk about. But before I launch into my list of Festivus grievances, I want to get your thoughts on this whole impeachment stuff.
Yeah, so I think, being someone who's very far on the left-hand side, yes, they kind of pushed through to get this pushed through, but I think it was important to do so One, because the fucking guy led an insurrection to try to take over. Like, it's a failed coup is what it is, right? He was trying to take over the country. And that needs to be answered for. On top of that, I think they're very, very scared that he's going to come back in 2024 and get reelected, which he could at this rate. And with these fucking mindless zombies behind him, it absolutely 100% could happen. So I think that's probably the bigger issue, that they want to make sure that he can't rerun for president or any office for that matter. I think that's the big thing that they want to do. The Senate side of things, who is surprised that Mitch McConnell is going to drag his feet, right? Like, if he wanted this to happen, he could make this happen. That's not what he wants to do. He wants to walk enough of the line so that people who are against Trump don't see him as the monster that he is. But the people that do like Trump or do lean really far to the right, they'll still see him as holding up some sort of Republican values. It's always a game, right? I honestly think that after Biden, after Inauguration Day, nobody's really going to care all that much. I mean, the left is probably going to still push for it to happen. The right is going to drag their feet, not really make much of it. If it does happen, it probably won't happen for, till this summer or something, so as it doesn't overshadow Biden's first 100 days or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's going to be much ado for nothing, but I do think that it's very special because old Donnie Boy has always wanted to be a winner, and now he officially holds the record for most impeachments as a U.S. president. So let me offer a toast. Congratulations, Donnie. Way to go.
So, and one of the things that I'm wondering, and this is just me kind of speaking just out loud in general, but I'm wondering if the fact that this isn't going to happen until he has already left office might actually help folks to kind of step away from their kind of party lines and their whatever. Because honestly, one of the ways that I look at this is, can't it be both? Because everybody's saying, well, you're just doing this because you've had it out for Donald Trump for 4 years and you don't like him and blah, blah, blah. And are there people who probably are like that? Yeah,
Sure.
I'm not going to say that there aren't. But the other thing is, we need to look at the facts of this case. Were the things that Donald Trump did, said, or did not do things that you could make a legal case led to what happened in the Capitol? And I think that a lot of us would say yes to that. And I think the other part about this that is frustrating is hearing and seeing the arguments from people about this. So I think what you had mentioned is correct in that a lot of the reason to go for this is so that Trump, if he is convicted, would not be able to hold public office again. And
Right.
that would be a step in trying to curb some of his direct appeal to these things. But I think the part about this that is challenging is how people are looking at this, because this is really becoming a he said, she said, where and I watched hours of this and I was very frustrated because I'm listening to these people, and there were multiple people who blamed Black Lives Matter for this.
Yeah.
There was one gentleman who said, if we would have prosecuted Black Lives Matter like we're prosecuting these people, this would not have happened. And then there's other people who are saying, well, these people just broke into a building. These Black Lives Matter people set fire to our cities. And like, they're deflecting and deflecting and deflecting. Yes, those events happened. Yes, those events probably need to be, dealt with too. But that's not what we're dealing with here. That is not what we're legislating. We're legislating the fact that the individual in presidential office was rallying up these people. And then it's also come out that there are other, politicians who are giving these people tours of the Capitol
Right.
building and also spurring them on and encouraging this, not just encouraging peaceful protest, but encouraging people to incite violence.
It's
And
it's it's
that,
like it's like your kid, right? If you've got a kid who we already established is stupid, and you teach this kid that it's okay to beat on your dog. When the dog's around, you kick the dog, and you teach the kid that's okay. The dog, went to the bathroom on the floor, so we kick it. That's what we do. And the dog barks when someone's at the door. You kick the dog, and you tell the kid, look, that's how you treat this dog. That's how you treat the dog. You kick him when he barks when you don't want him to. And if you do this, and you continue to pile this on, what's going to happen to that kid? right? The kid who doesn't really have that capacity to think on his own, the kid who is looking up to you as his adult, as his parent, as a role model. He is going to follow what you're teaching. He is going to do what you say. And even though there may be a part of him that says, you know what, I shouldn't kick this dog. Like he whines and moans and he cries every time. It hurts. And now he's limping. He never used to limp, but he's limped really bad since Dad kicked him last weekend. But you know what that kid's going to do? The kid's going to kick the fucking dog. And that's what's happening, right? This is, and not every single one of these people can be roped into this, but the vast majority, they're sheep, right? They're just doing what they're being told. They don't have the capacity to think for themselves. They're just following the flock. And these people just keep riling them up and letting them know that the gay people are bad and the black people are bad. And Donald Trump is the only one you can trust, and forget the media. They're just lying to you. And these people just suck it all in. And of course they're going to do and act and do whatever it is that you want them to do. It's just common sense. Anybody can look at it and see that this is what's happening here. And they just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And part is because these people that are in office know that they're basically above the law. Nothing's going to happen to them.
Well, and the part about it that is really, frustrating is we're getting to this point where people are saying, well, we need unity and we need freedom and we need X, Y, and Z. But at that point, and I'm going to give you an example here. It's like if you have a kid who breaks a window, and this is something I saw on Twitter. So if you've already heard this, sorry, but I'm stealing it. So there was somebody who posted, if you're a parent and your kid breaks this window and you go, who the fuck broke my window? And the kid goes, Mom, this is not the time for anger. This is the time for unity. If you punish me for breaking that window, I'm just going to be more angry and more upset with you and more frustrated, and you will be responsible for anything else that I do. That's fucking what's being said here. Literally, there are people saying, if you want this shit to stop trying to impeach this man. You are literal fuckingly threatening people with violence to not impeach this man? Really? Really? What about that is unity? What about that is bringing people together? Riddle me that.
Well, this is the playbook of the right. This is their playbook, right? Is they will push and they will fight and they will undercut and they will do all this dirty, nasty, horrible stuff. And then as soon as they get called on it, then they drop back, right? Every single fucking time there's a school shooting, what is it you hear from the right? Now is not the time to talk about gun control. We need to send thoughts and prayers. We can't talk about that right now. It's the same thing, right? They will push and push and push and push, which they've done. And when there were peaceful, the vast majority, very peaceful protests going on this summer around Black Lives Matter, they would just go off the goddamn deep end that we need to tie them up and lock them up and shoot them and do whatever we need to do, right? There was no unity talk then. It was, let's just destroy everything. And now that it's on their side of the lawn, now all of a sudden it's unity, right? The fact that they're coming out and saying this impeachment is going to separate this country is already separated. Okay, don't give me that bullshit. The country is already separated, and you cannot spend 4 years doing everything in your power to separate this country, and then the goddamn second that somebody has to be held to account, you say, whoa, we need to bring this country together. Get fucked.
That was a much more entertaining way to say what but that's the thing though, like the hypocrisy frustrates me because it's like picking and choosing. It's like we're dealing with this issue right now. We're not legislating something that happened years ago. We're not legislating, oh, well, Nancy Pelosi said this, so if Nancy Pelosi said that, this other person can say that. Didn't somebody teach y'all in like kindergarten, 2 wrongs don't make a right? Like that's the whole thing is we're not going to excuse this wrong just because you feel like another wrong was excused. Like we all need to grow and do better and be better. And I feel like we should probably move to the next piece of this topic because if we don't, I'm just going to actually, and the next piece of the topic is probably just going to make me rant too. But
Do
do
it.
you have anything else to say about Trump and impeachment before we move on?
Nah, move on.
So Mr. Trump was not the only person who was a casualty of big tech. So, Parler,
They
which is a
fucking
social
suck.
media platform, Parler, which is a social media platform favored by conservatives, has found itself virtually homeless on the internet as Amazon, Apple, and Google all booted it from their platforms in the span of little more than 24 hours.
Sorry.
So, what happened was that Parler was taken off of the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and then Amazon Web Services, which provided them web hosting, said that in recent weeks it reported 98 examples to Parler of posts that clearly encourage and incite violence. The letter included screenshots of several examples. Amazon Web Systems wrote, "We've seen a steady increase in this violent content on your website, all of which violates our terms. It's clear that Parler does not have an effective process to comply with the Amazon Web Services terms of service. AWS provides technology and services to customers across the political spectrum, and we continue to respect Parler's right to determine for itself what content it will allow on its site. However, we cannot provide services to a customer who is unable to effectively identify and remove content that encourages or incites violence against others. Because Parler cannot comply with our terms of service and poses a very real risk to public safety, we are suspending Parler." So this got people all in their feelings and got everybody up about First Amendment considerations and all of this stuff. But what are your thoughts, Christopher, just in general about the piece with Parler being basically taken offline for a while?
Well, it's the same kind of thing, right? It's a company, a social media app or social media company that um, was enabling people to plan all this garbage and well beyond this, right? Like I bet that if and when all of the messages that are going to be like all these messages have been pulled from Parler because they use security that a 12-year-old could write, all of it's been taken off, or the vast majority has been taken off, and it's being sent to the FBI. So people are going to be looking at all of this, and I would wager that once they go through all that, they're going to find this link to a whole lot of other things too. But this is a site that did not monitor anything, and it was the breeding ground for a lot of these right-wing nut jobs, or at least a gathering ground for a bunch of these right-wing nut jobs. And on top of that, this is where a lot of people openly in public talked about what they were going to do at the U.S. Capitol. So, like, people are pissed off that Donald Trump can't use Twitter anymore. This is a site that literally made it easier for people to try to overtake our government. Like, why the fuck would we want this company around to begin with? Like, the fact that it was breeding white supremacy and it was breeding right-wing nut jobs and it was breeding all these people that want to attack and kill people in this country, that was bad enough. Now it is a breeding ground for people who want to try to take over the government in this country. Like, I have zero sympathy for you. Zero. And it's the same thing that we kind of talked about with Trump, right? Is that people finally got to that point where they're like, why do I want to do business with you? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And it was Google, then it was Apple, and then Amazon was the big one that basically killed it entirely.
Yeah, so before we kind of jump into, actually, I want to jump into the First Amendment considerations, and then I actually want to read you a few of these things that AWS flagged as reasons for, suspending the service of Parler. So a lot of people have said that with big tech doing this to Trump and big tech doing this to Parler, they are violating the First Amendment. They've also said that conservative voices are being silenced.
Wrong.
Now, in the fallout from Trump's banning and Parler's banishing, these are the claims that have been made. Now, one of the things that people do need to understand about the First Amendment is that the amendment protects against government imposed restrictions on speech, but leaves private companies free to regulate speech within their businesses as they see fit. Many legal experts have said that Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, and the others involved were within their rights to enforce their terms of service on users. So, for example, a previous court case where an individual sued Twitter, the court ruled that Twitter is a private sector entity that provides services to customers only if they abide by the terms of service. The court said that Twitter has their own First Amendment right to exercise independent editorial control over the content on its platform. Terminating accounts for allegedly bad behavior is an editorial decision regarding how to present content. Now, obviously, there are folks, for example, in Europe, the German chancellor kind of criticized some of these things, saying that lawmakers and not tech companies should set policy for free speech. Now, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that in Europe, there's a lot of scars from the Nazi rule and propaganda that helped to create it. So government officials in Europe are a little bit more willing to set these rules as opposed to, letting people just kind of do what they want. But one of the things that I've seen a lot is people saying that, well, it's not really fair for Parler to be shut down because these are conservative voices and these are people that represent things that I represent. And then there's another subset of people that go, oh, well, the hateful views that people put on the internet, they don't represent me. So let me read you some of these hateful views. Well, I will let you decide if they are hateful. So we have someone who has said, shoot the police that protect those shitbag senators right in the head, and then make the senator grovel a bit before capping their ass. We also have on January 20th, we need to start systematically assassinating liberal leaders, liberal activists, BLM leaders and supporters, members of the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, and the mainstream media anchors and correspondents. We also have someone who has said Stacey Abrams would make good target practice for our beginners. There's also, after the firing squads are done with the politicians, the teachers are next. There's also, white people need to ignite their racial identity and rain down suffering and death like a hurricane. So, what about those views represents or does not represent people? Because that's the biggest thing that is challenging to me, is that people will say, well, those posts shouldn't have been taken down, but they don't represent me. But what about that represents what people are calling for with unity? What about that represents, what people are saying, oh, you're defying me of my free speech rights? Because one of the things about free speech is that free speech is not to be what, has been called fighting words. And there was actually a case that was in like the 1940s where there was a fighting words doctrine created, and those fighting words were defined as by their utterance to inflict injury or tend to incite an immediate breach of the peace. Now, one of the things about our First Amendment is, yes, it's outdated. And yes, a lot of times they think about the fact that we look at fighting words and we think about it as being an in-person thing. But what's different here is that people who typed these things on Parler, what did they do, Christopher? They went to the United States Capitol and they murdered an officer. So you know what? They did create an immediate breach of the peace. Am I wrong or am I wrong?
Well, I don't think you're wrong. And I think the example I think we all grew up with is, free speech doesn't mean you can go into a crowded theater and yell fire, right? Because you're causing damage. You're causing, chaos. You're causing, a situation that could get people injured or hurt. Clearly, yelling fire in a crowded theater is a whole lot less impactful than, hey, we need to go shoot these people, right? And that's what these people don't understand. They don't understand the First Amendment. But again, I don't know that they want to understand the First Amendment because that's not their lot in life. Their lot in life is to remain as ignorant as possible, but continue to shout with a megaphone, and continue to push and push and push and do as much crazy shit as they can possibly get away with. And the second they cross over, the 17th line that someone decided to draw where they said, whoa, 17 is too many, they take a step back to 16. Like by that point, you're already way past where you should be anyway. So, none of this shit should be said. I think it's, as somebody who really cares about privacy and data privacy, I think it's fucking laugh out loud hilarious that so many of these fucking, stay at home in my trailer park gunshot fucking guys with their red caps who are on their fucking, their Razor phone from 25 years ago typing on fucking Parler don't realize that people are going to know exactly who they are and they're going to be able to hunt them down and hold them hopefully accountable for all the bullshit stuff that they're saying and the bullshit stuff that they're doing. that just makes me fucking roll on the goddamn floor because these people are so fucking stupid. So should Parler be shut down? 100%. There's no reason that this should be out there. And even if you want to go so far as to say that they should just, maybe Parler could stick around, but it has to be highly moderated. Even that I think is iffy at best. And the other thing too that needs to be talked about is we are in a situation where big tech is controlling a lot of how we communicate. Is that right? I don't know that it necessarily is. I mean, it happens to work in my benefit because they tend to lean more in the direction where I want things to go. But who's to say that that won't change, right? I think that, the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, is that the one? No, whatever, the Communication Act of like 1984 or some shit, where that Section 230 we've talked about comes from. The shit's like 20, 30 years old. It's a completely different world. I mean, I have spouted multiple times here on this podcast, and we've got Congress full of 80-year-old fucking people who don't even know how to use a goddamn cell phone, yet these are the people that have to write the rules on how cell phones and all this other technology works. And it's mind-blowing because they don't understand it. How can they do that? And so 20, 30 years ago when this stuff was written, it doesn't even exist. We're not in that world anymore. That world, we've passed that world by years and years ago. And this stuff needs to be updated, right? I think there's a lot of things that need to be updated for the time. So should Twitter and Facebook be able to determine who gets to say what and how and when? I don't know. I don't think so. I think there should probably be some sort of regulation. I know that people hate the word regulation because it's scary and it means that things may get, drawn back beyond their control, which people like Mark Zuckerberg have fucking nightmares over. But I do think that it needs to be looked at because clearly Parler is something that never ever should have happened. There's no way in hell that should have been able to exist as long as it did and lead to the type of thing that it helped lead to.
Right. And I think one of the things that we have to acknowledge here, and this is something that I read too, is that one of the considerations is that COVID has changed the way that social media is handled because in COVID times, a lot of people are going to social media to spread their message that they might have otherwise spread in person. So instead of somebody going and just doing a physical thing where they're, congregating here, they're posting on Facebook about their political views or their views on COVID or their views on X, Y, and Z. And these platforms have had to react. For example, with COVID, that was really the first that we saw of these platforms actually enforcing their terms of service in a kind of consistent way, because before these platforms really only enforced their terms of service when it benefited them.
Right.
But in COVID is when we really started to see, hey, this information might not be true, so you should go find the CDC information. And then that's the same thing with the election, and then the election fraud, and then on and on and on. So big tech has had to move as the needle has moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been challenging too, because this, honestly, what we're seeing now is a preview of what the world would be like without Section 230. Because just indulge me for a minute. If one of the officers at the Capitol who was killed, if their family could tie back a post to Parler or to Twitter or to Facebook, they could, in theory, sue that provider for allowing that person to plan what they were going to do in the Capitol. Now, again, there's a large legal gap there where they have to
Right.
prove intent and blah, 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 but no company wants to be sued. No company wants to incur the lawyer fees that it's going to take to fight off every frivolous or legitimate lawsuit. So the more lawsuit happy that people would get with big tech, the more restrictions that people would face in what they're able to say.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that it's a scary world where we're going because I think these conversations are going to start happening a lot. And it'll be very interesting to see how things shift. But as it seems like we're kind of trying to wrap up this and move on to some other stuff, I want to share one thing. And this is part of the shit on Parler side of things, but it's also kind of the security and privacy part of me. So there is a I believe they refer to themselves as a hacker. I'm trying to find it on here, but I can't find it. I believe that they mentioned that themselves as a hacker who accessed a vast majority of the stuff on Parler. And again, this is kind of a protect your data, but it's also a dude, Parler is fucking ridiculously stupid. So first of all, they lacked any kind of legitimate two-factor authentication. There was a security vulnerability there, which allowed people to create as many administrator accounts as they wanted. So someone could access the site, create an administrator account. Beyond that, here's the fun part. The way that Parler structured the URLs for all of their posts, basically they just changed the number at the end. So it's like parler.com/posts/1.html. Obviously, it's a little bit more than that. And then if you just changed it to 2.html, guess what happens? It pulls up the next post or a picture or a video. And then if you change it to 3, it brings up the next one. So basically you can access anything without signing in by doing that. On top of that, the Parler does not require, well, obviously the authentication to view public posts, but on top of that, it doesn't have any kind of a rate limiter. So it doesn't limit how many of these posts and how fast you can access them. So basically, somebody with very limited scripting ability could write a script to go to that URL, pull out all the information, change the URL by 1, pull down all the information, change the URL by 1, pull down all the information, and just crawl through the entire site and pull down, the vast majority, if not everything that was posted publicly. This is why people have to be careful on A, what you're saying online. Don't ever say anything online that you do not want attributed to you. That includes on this podcast, Brian. Keep that in mind. And number 2, just be careful with what you're doing and where you're doing and who you're trusting that stuff with. There are certain companies you can trust to some degree. There are some you can trust less or more. And everyone has to do their own research on that and figure out where your stuff is safe and where it's not, and just be smart about that. And if you want to post on Parler, you probably shouldn't be on this podcast anyway.
Well, I feel like that's a good wrap up, but thanks for enduring an episode and a half on politics in Washington, D.C. Now, I can't guarantee that we won't keep talking about this, but I feel like we've definitely said what needs to be said for now. And what do you say, Sconzi? Maybe, just maybe, we'll get a topic on this wheel that doesn't make us angry. I'm looking at this wheel, and the only one that I have any hopes for is the sports roundup or app privacy, but let's see what happens.
It's been a week since I read through all these, so I'm not even sure I remember what they are. But is privacy a human right? So I don't know. This one probably won't piss you off, right?
This is just one that I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here, but we're going to give it a go. So there was an article talking about how data-driven innovation is critical to economic growth, but at what cost? As a society, we are easily persuaded to trade our privacy to use apps that track our every move. Opting out is sometimes or nearly impossible. In an ideal world, we'd have privacy laws in place to fully protect consumers who have limited power and help the economy. So, one of the things that made this question be asked is that Canada's federal government is introducing a bill that's a new Consumer Privacy Protection Act. And among the notable changes, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner gains much more firepower and has the ability to give penalties to those who basically don't address privacy and security concerns. But there is a glaring omission. The bill does not explicitly recognize that privacy is a human right, nor does it give precedence to privacy rights over commercial considerations. So there are law professors that are saying it would be best situated in a preamble to a bill to state that it is a human right for people to have privacy. But then there are also folks that say that their hands are tied because of constitutional constraints or different jurisdiction within like states or provinces. So as the expert in this area, Mr. Sconzi, I look to you for guidance.
Oh, well, that's kind of scary. So I guess I don't know if there's a ton here to talk about, but I think it's still a very, very important topic. And really what it ties down to, does privacy rate at the same level as some of the other basic human rights? And I just kind of pulled up the list of stuff here on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and this was through the United Nations. And some of the stuff that's on here is you have the right to life, liberty, and security of person. You have the right to not be a slave. Torture and cruelty, the right to be recognized as a person before the law, so on and so forth. So all these different things that are just basic human rights, right? Things that should just come naturally to each and every one of us. And the question really here was, should privacy, data privacy, be considered a human right? And I think there's a lot of intricacies to this, and I think that we could probably talk about this forever if we really wanted to break down each and every little piece of it. But in the end, I think that, I mean, if we just look at GDPR, right, the privacy framework that got passed in Europe, basically what it was saying is that people have the right to their own data, their own privacy. They have the right to be forgiven, which is part of GDPR, right? So you can say, I don't want you to keep that article on me from 15 years ago because I beat up my girlfriend or whatever. You have the right that people can't find your information, which is kind of mind blowing when you think about the year of Google, or the day of Google that we live in now. It's kind of odd to think of that, but in the end, should privacy be considered a right? Because if you think about it, and I talk about it ad nauseum, and we just talked about it a little bit just a minute ago, people's privacy is just taken from them at all times. If you go to a website, unless you are very, very good at locking down everything on your computer, you're giving away your private data. You're giving away all of it. If you're using apps on your phone, if you're using the internet, period, your internet service provider is stealing your data. And a lot of people don't care. A lot of people don't really give a damn if you, so you know where I live, big deal, who cares? I don't care about that. But other people do. And I think what this article is really trying to get to is, should it be considered a right? And then should the government then have to take a look at these certain things and maybe sign off on whether or not an app can do X, Y, or Z, or a website can do X, Y, or Z. I think privacy should be considered a human right. How that happens, I don't know what the answer to that is. But we live in a world where people's privacy is being stolen from them, a lot of times unbeknownst to them, because people just aren't very bright in that area. That's not meant to undercut people, unless you're on the far right. Then those fuckers, they're just dumb as a fucking doornail. But people just don't understand. They don't know. They're not aware of it. And so companies take advantage of that. Companies like Facebook and Twitter and all these companies, they just take advantage of that. And I think it is something that we need to make people more aware of, and at least give people the opportunity to choose and make an educated decision on what they want done. That's what I got, B.
That's fair. I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, it's just one of those things where, again, every time I think about something like this, I just continue to think about all the random times that people will give away their data for free just to have a giggle, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to really be education about that as much as we need to go, yes, it's a human right. Because a lot of people, again, this kind of ties into a lot of what we've been talking about, is people feel like they have rights to X, Y, and Z, but do they really understand what those rights are? But do they also understand what the responsibilities of those rights are?
Yeah, I think we could spin this into an educational piece and how we need to redo the way we educate people in this world. But that's a much longer topic, and I don't know anyone wants to hear my view on that. So I'm gonna
That
spin the
actually
wheel, B.
sounds like a good topic. But yes, let's spin
Well,
the wheel.
maybe we can add it to a future show, maybe. Oh, look, we're gonna talk about app privacy, I guess.
Okay, so today we're talking about big tech. This podcast is sponsored by no one.
But if Apple's out there and you want to give us a couple billion, we'll take it.
I don't know. Like, what are you drinking? Are they sponsoring our podcast?
This is the Dalmore 12-year single malt Scotch.
Gotcha.
But they're not giving us any money though. They're just giving me a buzz.
Well, if they'd like to, they're more than welcome.
They are welcome.
While they're considering that, there are a couple of new entries into how people can figure out what apps are sharing their data. So, Apple released app privacy labels that went live in the App Store in December, giving users the chance to see what data is collected by each app they might download. Now, based on that information, Forbes compared Signal, Apple's own iMessage, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger to see which app gave away what information. So Signal only stored your phone number and it made no attempt to link that to your identity. Meanwhile, Facebook Messenger stores dozens of items about you, such as your purchase history, search history, and location. Meanwhile, Signal has reported a surge in new signups even before Parler went down. I think they're getting more now from what I was reading, but possibly correlated with the new app privacy labels and a controversy where WhatsApp's new privacy policy will no longer allow users to opt out of data sharing with, come on, give me the dun dun, with
Oh,
parent company Facebook.
yay!
Instead, the new policy expressly outlines how WhatsApp will share data, stuff like your phone number, profile name, and address book information, with Facebook. So, Christopher, is Facebook the worst company on earth?
Yes. I mean, is it really a competition? I
I
mean,
mean, they
Facebook
know
is horrible.
everything about you. Like, they're like basically Facebook could come into your house and they know your house better than you do at this point, it sounds like.
Well, potentially. I've been deleting all my Facebook messages, so hopefully they don't know that much. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. There's a bunch of different stories. So the one we kind of kicked off on is the and I tried to link an image here, but it looks like it's an invisible or a transparent image, so I don't think it worked really well. But it really just kind of broke down what information these companies are collecting on you. So this is the image here. It's kind of ugly, and it's all blurry. But just based on the God, that is such a horrible picture. Just based on the size of things alone, this leftmost column here is Signal, where there's nothing. And then we've got iMessage, where there's like 6 things in here. We got WhatsApp, which ramps it up quite a bit. And then the last like 100 different things on this image here are pieces of information that Facebook Messenger captures on you. So for instance, some of the stuff on here is your location, your contact info, your user content, your search history, your sensitive info, your identifiers, your user content. Wait, is that like repeating itself? Your financial info, for God's sake. Your like all this stuff that it's collecting on you that it doesn't really need, but it's Facebook. They're going to take whatever the hell they can. So really what a big part of that is making sure you're aware of the apps that you're using and how they're using your information. On top of that, I don't know if this was on our list here or not, because I think it came up in the last week or so, but there was an update that came out, or at least a warning for WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook. And they popped up and said, hey, we're going to share all this information with Facebook. So I do think you mentioned that. Now all of a sudden Facebook, after putting a great big like full page ad in a newspaper somewhere out in the East, I think it was Japan or maybe China, somewhere over there, like this huge ad that says, hey, we're not doing that. Now all of a sudden they're pulling back and they're like, we're not going to make this change just yet. Why is that? It's because everybody fled and started to download Signal, which is a much, much safer and data-centric application.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to tell folks, so if you weren't watching the stream here, basically what Sconzi showed you was back when Chris Jericho was in WCW, he did a promo where he said he was the man of 1,004 holds, and he had like a scroll of paper that was like almost as tall as him. Imagine that scroll of paper being all the things that Facebook knows about you. Or you can just go Google that GIF and you'll get the image.
Yeah, it's Facebook is just worth trying to stay away from. And when it comes to protecting your privacy, especially when it comes to messages, and I trust Apple more than just about any company when it comes to protecting my privacy. That doesn't mean I trust them implicitly. I don't, but I trust them a lot more than most companies. And even iMessage collects certain information that Signal doesn't. So again, we should be sponsored by Signal, but if you're using messaging, use Signal.
That's fair. So we've got one more topic left. I'm thinking about throwing my challenge flag here. Is there anything that you want to throw a challenge flag on?
Dude, I know what you're gonna throw your challenge flag on too. Just leave it alone, B.
No, it's not. It's not what you think it is. I promise.
All right. Go ahead, throw your challenge flag.
All right. I just want to talk sports with you because it's been a really heavy couple weeks, and I feel like our listeners and our viewers want to see a little bit of levity. They want to hear us talk a little bit about sports. They want to hear us get back into that because everything else on the wheel, like the Jacob Blake officer thing, we all knew
Yeah.
that was going to happen. That's a shock to nobody. We don't need to talk about the comic thing that you thought I was going to pick. The COVID and medical malpractice
Yeah,
stuff,
don't
like
need that.
again, we've talked about COVID so many times, and like all of this other stuff, we're just going to throw it in the garbage. But let's talk about some sports. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so we shall start with everyone's favorite Green Bay Packers. So a surprise happened.
Oh, wait. Oh, there we go.
So a surprise happened. We all thought that the Packers would be facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this weekend, but instead there was a Jared Goff sighting, and the Packers will be facing Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, there was a very interesting thing that happened to the Packers this week. They obviously lost David Bakhtiari a few weeks ago, and they found an individual, Jared Valdir, who actually, I believe, if my brain is correct, he played for the Packers last year. He played for the Colts in the wild card round. The Colts moved him to the practice squad, and the Packers said, "Hey, we're going to sign you to our active roster." So everybody's like, "Oh, this is cool. We're going to have some offensive line depth." But do you know what happened, Christopher?
No, what happened, B?
Jared Valdir has now tested positive for COVID-19.
Of
So
course he did.
the Packers have apparently dodged a bullet because it was deemed that there were no close contacts with Mr. Jared. But I was just like, oh my God, this cannot be how the season ends.
Dude,
We're
that,
going to end the season with like Kingsley Kiki playing, left tackle because everyone's on the COVID list.
like we basically made it to the year without, knock on wood, pretty safe as a COVID thing, and now we signed this fucking guy and he shows up coughing from, all the way from Indianapolis all over people. Like, no, we don't need this.
Right? So that was just like, oh my God. So, what are your thoughts about the Rams, Christopher? I am a little like I am guardedly optimistic. The Rams probably are the best defense left in the NFC side, right?
Yep.
Because I would honestly say that all four teams left, the three other teams have better defenses than us, and that kind of makes me sad. But
The kids that throw the ball around across the street here at the apartments have a better defense than we do. But go on.
so the Rams have a really good defense, and one of the things that makes the Rams unique is they've got Jalen Ramsey. They'll probably put Ramsey on Devontae, so we're going to need our good old friend Marquez Valdez-Scantling in
Oh,
his hands
Jesus. They
that are
fucking
made of
suck.
the hardiest of forest wood to come through. We don't need a Javon Wims. We don't need the curse of the number 83. We need our guy Marquez to come through. But I feel like I'm optimistic that the Packers are going to win. I feel like the week off was good for them, and I think they'll get it done, especially with Jared Goff having his broken thumb. I'm guessing that, playing in a cold weather game probably isn't good for a
Yeah.
thumb that has pins in it. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I don't feel like that's good.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
I think I would feel better if Aaron Donald wasn't going to play, but it sounds like he's going to be able to play. I agree that Jalen Ramsey will be just shadowing Devontae all day. We really, as Wiggum says in the chat, it's the number one defense versus the number one offense, and how's that going to turn out? I like our offense's chances. I don't like that Bakhtiari's gone, but I don't know if anybody in the history of the NFL has done more with less than what Rodgers has done. So even taking Devontae out of the game, I still think that he can be successful. We just read that article that came out from Tunyon. I mean, he's going to be huge in this game. He's going to have to be, especially because MVQ or whatever his name is, MVS, he can't catch a goddamn cold. He couldn't catch COVID if he would have rode up from Indianapolis with that fucking guy. That's how bad he is. So I still like our chances. I think that the offense can still be successful. I'm not terribly worried about their defense, although the dude whose name I don't know, the running back dude, was fire last week. And if he brings that again this week, then there could be trouble because we know that our run defense isn't fantastic.
Yeah, Cam Akers, he's a rookie. He's good. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a challenge. But I mean, we'll see. It'll be a very interesting challenge. And the nice part is that it's the first game up of the weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll know if we'll be in the mood to watch the rest of the football or if we'll just be in like this very sad state. So that is the state of the Packers. Now, I was going to talk about NFL coach stuff, but I feel like we'll take that for a future week when someone has hired Eric Bieniemy. Now, I do
Yeah.
want to ask you
Can
about.
we wait really quick? Can we just talk about who the Jacksonville Jaguars hired?
Can you play the they fucking suck drop?
They fucking suck. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's do it. So the NBA. By the way, they hired Urban Meyer, who I have lots of thoughts about Urban Meyer, but I'm gonna make you wait for those thoughts because we will do an off-season primer on the NFL because
Yeah.
what else do we have to do? We're
That's
stuck
true.
at home. It's COVID season.
I know. In like 3 weeks, once football's done, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about anymore.
I don't know. We'll probably talk about Donald Trump some more. But
That's true,
for
yeah.
now, we're going to talk about James Harden. So this week, James Harden was traded to the Brooklyn Nets, making the road to an NBA championship that much harder for your Milwaukee Bucks. With Harden in the fold, he forms a star-studded trio in Brooklyn with fellow MVP winner Kevin Durant and the ever enigmatic Kyrie Irving, who apparently is currently on the COVID list. So, I know we're not an NBA podcast, but this really sent shockwaves through the NBA. And Harden, he basically was trying to worm his way out of
Oh, yeah.
Houston for a while. And I think it was funny. I watched a video from Shaq, and Shaq was like, look, whatever James Harden asked for in Houston, he asked for, Dwight Howard. He got him. He asked for Russell Westbrook. He got him. He asked for guys who can shoot the ball. He got him. He asked for XYZ guy. He got everything he wanted, but he didn't get the job done.
Right.
And then Shaq, it was interesting because Shaq was like, look, I used to be that guy. I would go home and I would say, oh, this guy ain't doing that and this guy ain't doing that. And he's like, and my dad looked at me and said, well, what the hell did you do?
Yep.
And that's what I'm asking James Harden. What the hell did you do? Yeah. And I feel like that's the interesting part about this because everybody's like, oh man, these guys are going to be so good. But did they also get 3 basketballs instated? Because
right.
Harden and Kyrie, they couldn't shit. Like, again, like that's going to be sure, these guys are really talented, but the biggest part about these big threes is when you've seen these big threes, the ones that work are the ones where these guys can share. That's why Golden State worked how it did because those guys were all willing to work together and share. That's why the Lakers won because it's like, yeah, you have LeBron and Anthony Davis, but these other guys all know their role and they're playing their role. That's why Philadelphia didn't work because you've got Joel Embiid doing his thing and Ben Simmons doing his thing and Al Horford's doing like I feel like the big 3 thing, while like as a concept it's good, you sometimes need more continuity than you need star power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it depends on who the 3 are, right? I mean,
right.
It doesn't matter how good they are if they can't work together. So I don't really follow the NBA anymore. It's never been something that I've been super huge into. But there are 2 things that I know about James Harden. Number 1, he couldn't carry Tim Duncan's jock. And number 2, he's a fucking crybaby. And here's the thing I know about crybabies. They will always find a way and a reason to fucking cry. So even though he's sitting there with Durant and maybe Kyrie Irving, we'll see if he comes back because there's some weird shit. Some weird like fucking what's the name of that dude who used to be on the Spurs who went to Toronto? Kawhi. There's some weird Kawhi crybaby shit going on there too. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter because he's going to find something to cry about. I'm not getting the ball enough. They're not shooting enough. They're shooting too much. He'll find something to fucking cry about. That's just when you're that type of personality, that's what's going to happen. So is it going to turn into something? I don't know. I don't follow basketball enough to know. But I get the distinct feeling that he is not the type of person who can fit into one of those big 3 type situations.
I think he's just happy to be in one of the big 3 type cities to where he can go to the strip club whenever he wants.
That could be it too.
So the last, and I don't even know that out because this is going to end on a sour note, but let's talk about the Brewers. The Brewers have avoided salary arbitration with Josh Hader and Brandon Woodruff. So Hader has signed for a $6.675 million deal, and Brandon Woodruff has signed for $3.275 million. Now, Christopher, do you want to hear a list of the other signings that the Brewers have made so far?
Let me look around and see if there's anything sharp that I can stab in my eye. No, there isn't. I think we're safe. I think you can do it.
Okay, so we have Luke Mail signed as a free agent.
Don't know who it
We
is.
have Dustin Peterson signed to a minor league contract.
Don't know who that is.
Luis Perdomo signed to a minor league contract.
Nope.
Dylan Cousins,
Never heard of him.
Hobie Milner.
Is that even a real name?
It's on my list. Tim Lopes, acquired off waivers from Seattle.
Nope, nothing.
Pablo Reyes.
Sounds familiar,
Daniel
but nope, nope.
Daniel Robertson.
No, never heard of him.
They re-signed Jace Peterson, who was on the team last
I mean,
year.
I've heard of him. I'm just saddened that I've heard of him.
And that's it. So the Brewers
They
are
fucking suck.
I mean, so the other thing that we have to acknowledge here, right, is that MLB free agency has basically been in the freezer because
Yeah.
people are waiting to see if there's going to be a DH, or the Cubs are shredding money, the Reds are shredding money. Like, all of these teams are just like, we need to cut payroll, and it's just going to be a really weird offseason. But this, I don't feel good about this, Christopher. I don't.
So here's the thing. I hate it. I hate it with everything that's inside of me. I think it's stupid. I think it's fucking lame. I think that everybody involved with this should be shot into the sun. But none of this is surprising. I mean, the Brewers have had especially by Brewer standards, a high payroll for a number of years. Last year they were kind of garbage, even though they somehow still almost made the playoffs. Clearly, last year it took a financial toll on every team because there's no fans, right? So there's a huge cut in income there. On top of that, a bunch of players didn't play well, so I don't think that, like, what did Christian Yelich hit, 260 or something? I'm guessing, but it was certainly not 320 like we would expect. Now you feel pretty confident that Christian Yelich in a quote unquote normal year is going to be Christian Yelich, not who he was last year, but there's a bunch of other players who hit for shit. Like, a bunch of people hit for shit last year. So what do you even have? When you look at Omar Narvaez, I mean, we know he's a piece of shit, but they would like to think that he's not a $177 piece of shit and he's more a 230 piece of shit. But either way, they don't really know. They don't know what they have. And because of that, and that they want to cut salary, and that they lost a bunch of money, and they have no idea if they're going to be able to have fans in the stands next year. It's just there's this huge question mark. So you add all of that to the fact of the Brewers already being in a place where they need to basically just take chances on a couple of guys and hope that they hit. And this is what you're left with. So it's not surprising. It's disappointing. But none of this is surprising.
I would agree. So we'll just have to see how the season turns out. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was your sports recap of the week. And now, Christopher, I think it's time. Is it time?
Oh, wait, it is, but that's the wrong one.
Random
There it is.
rankings. Were you booing me because I didn't throw any more slander at Mitch Trubisky?
No, I was booing you because I hit the wrong button. And Yelich hit apparently 205 last year, so
Hey,
it's still
he
better
cracked
than the
Euchre.
still
He
better than the
cracked
one
Euchre.
still better than the 177 I think it was that Navarez had. I'm pretty sure I've got that number burned into my head, but let's see if I was right. Oh, it was 176. What a
Was it like 176.89?
I don't know. I kind of want to do the math now.
All right, while you're doing the math, we are going to do a very special random rankings. Now, again, we've been stuck in winter here in Wisconsin. It's cold, it's snowing, there's still COVID outside, so we can't really go outside. But today, we're going to do a draft of how would we spend an ideal summer day. So imagine that life is back to normal. We don't have to be afraid of getting the Rona. we're not afraid of slipping on the ice, and we can do whatever we want. So Sconzi and I will each draft a perfect summer day. Where are we going? What are we doing? And how is that going to go? What are your thoughts on that, Christopher?
I think it's good. I'm trying to figure out how this is going to play out, but I'm excited. Let's see. Did I lose you, B?
No, I'm still here.
Oh. All right. So how are we going to do this? Are we going to do it like we each like quote unquote draft an activity? Do we walk through the day? Do we have a list to pull from? How are we going to pull this together?
So my thought about that would be we can draft because the hard part is again there's lots of things that could make a perfect summer day. So I would just say we can draft an activity that we would do. You know, we can draft 5 different things. You might say, "Oh, I'm going to go for a walk." Or
I'm not going to say that.
I know. I could draft that as my last pick. And basically to address Wiggum's question, which is what is back to normal? Back to normal would be I'm not going to a patio right now to have a beer because I don't want to catch the Rona. So back to normal would mean that I would feel comfortable going to a patio to have a beer on this idealistic summer day.
All right. So we're just kind of picking our what the day would look like kind of thing.
Yep. And what Wiggum says we do 3 different things and we have to give details.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
All right. So do we want to randomize this wheel here?
No, I'm just going to let you go first.
All right. So since I already mentioned it and I don't want you to steal it, one of my favorite things to do in the summer when the weather is nice, when I don't have to worry about catching the Rona, is to go sit on my beer patio at the Explorium Brew Pub. I want to sit there with my Mug Club mug, my nice blue round mug. I want to order an appetizer of hummus. I love that hummus. And then I want to get myself the big BLAT. It's a sandwich that has bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And it's a big old sandwich and it's delicious. I get some fries with it. And then I have my beer. And because it's summer, you know, their stouts are pretty limited in the summer, but typically they still have at least 1 or 2 stouts for me. But I'm probably not going to go with a stout. I'll probably go with like a Belgian triple because that's going to be still heavy, but it's not going to be as heavy as a stout. So I've got my Belgian triple, I've got my big BLAT, I've got my fries, I've got my hummus, and in an ideal world, I have good company too. So that, Mr. Wiggum, is my first pick.
It's a good one. Wiggum did just mention that my reaction to this is priceless, and it's
I didn't even see your
dude, you
reaction because
missed
I
it.
was like too.
You have to go back and watch it because man, as soon as you busted out, it's a sandwich. I fucking lost it because you sounded like a preacher at that point, preaching about your beer. It was great. All right, so I I'm gonna take a certain angle with this, and I think you're gonna figure out that angle pretty quick. I think you probably already know the angle. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna start off. Since you took the beer from me, I'm gonna take the baseball from you. So I'm gonna assume that I can actually move around and walk without dying, because that's gonna be an important part. But you know, one of the things I do love about summertime is going to the Brewers games with my boys, and we do the big old tailgate on opening day. And we got the brats and the burgers, and we got the beer, and maybe Sconzi makes some of that homemade apple pie moonshine to get us all liquored up. And of course, the best part isn't going into the game; it's sitting there in the pregame smoking a big old cigar. That's just heaven right there to me. And then, of course, once you get all that knocked out, then you actually get to go inside, and then you get to watch some baseball. So, I mean, there's not much better than that. And of course, it can't be super hot, so it's got to be like a 70-degree day. That's right, Emily. Apple pie moonshine. Whew, it's good stuff.
Now, did you just draft like you drafted three things? You
I
drafted
drafted
grilling, you
baseball.
drafted a cigar, and you drafted baseball.
No,
So can I?
because then we could say that you drafted beer and Explorium and a sandwich and French fries.
So I guess that would be my question. Am I not able to select like backyard grilling, or is backyard grilling still on the table?
I think it's still on the table, man.
Okay. So that was a good clarification, but I don't think that I am going to select backyard grilling. I am going to think about this. Now, again, it's summer. You want to be outside generally. You want to enjoy a really nice day. You want to be able to go and do some stuff. You want to be able to spend some time with people. And one of the things that I really do enjoy is having that backyard barbecue. So I did come back to the backyard barbecue. So the biggest thing about the backyard barbecue is you're spending time outside. You're cooking good food. You're typically not cooking good food for yourself all the time, but sometimes you are. And then, you're just commiserating with people. You're having fun. You're watching kids running around and playing and doing all kind of stuff while you're just sitting there as the adults chatting, smelling all this good food, whether it's the bratwursts or the hot dogs or the hamburgers or the corn on the cob or, roasted vegetables on the grill, whatever it is. I feel like we've actually started doing, especially in like pandemic summer, we were grilling like we were grilling like once or twice a week. My wife
Yeah.
loves to grill. She is like our master household griller, but we grilled pork chops, we grilled chicken, we grilled anything under the sun. If it could be grilled, we tried it. So I would say the backyard barbecue, as a instead of going to Explorium, that would be my second choice. But did you notice the theme, Christopher?
Food and beer.
I didn't even mention beer, but yes,
Oh
you are
yeah, yeah,
correct.
yeah.
All right, what do you got?
So this isn't even summer specific, but before the Rona, I had a routine, and once Rona is to the point where we can get back out again, I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that routine because tonight is going to interfere with that. Tonight being podcast recording, so every Friday night I would get together with a bunch of friends, and it would be some sort of game night. We'd hang out and play board games, or we play D&D. And then while we were doing that, of course, I would smoke cigars. Most of us would smoke cigars. So it's the kind of thing like in the summer, my buddy Matt has a garage. He's a like professional handyman kind of guy, so he fixes up everything. So he's got this huge garage, which we just set a table in. We open up. He's got great big huge sliding doors on either side. We open them all the way up, get the breeze going through, and we just hang out. It allows the smoke to clear out. We play games. It's a hell of a good time. Get to hang out with friends. It's can't get much better, right? Hanging with people that you want to hang out with, smoking cigars, playing some games. So, like I said, that's not summer specific, but that's something that I absolutely want to get back to. I just have to figure out how that's going to work with the podcast. We might have to make it Saturday nights, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and when we get there, I think we'll all be happy to figure that out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So with my last pick, I'm totally going to take something that you would not take. So you can already pick whatever your last pick is. But in the summer, one of the things that I absolutely love to do is just to get outside and exercise. Every single day in the summer, I either go for a really long walk. Did you just hear my first two picks? I'm consuming a shit ton of calories,
Yeah.
and I have to figure out how to deal with that.
That's fair.
So, I like to get outside for long walks. I like to take bike rides. Also, I take bike rides to get beer in the summer. So that's a
There you
thing that
go.
I do. Now, to be fair, children, adults, wife, anyone who's listening to this podcast, I am not consuming beer on my bicycle. I am purchasing beer at a local vendor such as Total Wines or Schmodel Wines for no, conflicts. And then I'm putting it in a backpack and then I'm driving it home. So I really do enjoy my summer walks though, because you can always smell the fresh air and you can enjoy the sunshine, you can enjoy the birds chirping and like all of these things. If you walk by the lake, you can enjoy the lake breeze and the smell of the lake. There's just so many smells and feelings and sights and things like that that you just don't have in the winter. In winter, it's just gray and boring, and you can walk 6 feet and then fall on your ass. So that's what I like about summer is summer walks.
You know, I think you just changed my mind on my last one because I was all set for my last one to be sitting on my porch all by myself with a cigar. Like, is there anything better than that? I really don't think there is. I think that's like the best thing in the world.
So what you're saying is you're drafting cigars, cigars, and cigars.
Of course I am. But I actually changed my mind on the last one, and instead I'm going to say, because this really screams summer to me, is going down to the Milwaukee Fairgrounds or Milwaukee, what do they call it? Summerfest grounds, right?
Summerfest grounds,
any of the different festivals. If you're out there and you're not familiar, you should go look it up. There's amazing festivals all summer long. Well, maybe not this summer, and definitely not last summer. Heritage festivals, German Fest and Italian Fest, and Pride Fest is out there. Summerfest is the big one, right, with all the music acts. There's just so many things that are out there, and it's this huge fairground. There are some rides and stuff out there as well. Tons of food vendors. It behooves me to mention that you can smoke out there. So it's right on the lake, right? So the great thing is this is something that Brian and I, generally each year would do is we go down there, and the way that I describe it is we walk a lap around the whole grounds, then we grab some horrible food, then we sit at the lake and we eat that horrible food, and then I smoke a cigar. Then we take a lap around the whole grounds, we eat some horrible food, and I smoke a cigar, and then we just kind of keep doing that for like 7 or 8 hours, and it's great. It can be get a man fest if somebody just happens to already be like a barrel of beer in, and he puts out a message on Facebook trying to get people to come to German Fest, and instead, he types it as get a man fest because he's drunk off his ass. I don't think that ever happened, but
that was schnapps.
It was schnapps, that's true.
That was schnapps and beer.
There was a lot of schnapps.
Get Fest. So yes, I was gonna pick that one too. So I feel like, and I don't necessarily feel like we need a winner this week, right? What I wanted to do with this random rankings is I really wanted to have us think about things that we enjoy, because right now we're stuck in a lot of political hell, we're stuck in a lot of COVID hell, and just thinking about some of those good times, and especially with the vaccines coming and more people being eligible to go for that, hopefully we can get back to some of these times sooner than later.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so much of what we discuss here could be looked at negatively, or at least it's not uplifting information, right? We're talking about insurrection, we're talking about impeachment, we're talking about, COVID and deaths and all this crazy stuff, right-wing extremists and murder, et cetera, et cetera. I thought this was a really cool step back and just try to think of more peaceful and happy time and look forward to a more peaceful and happy time. I thought it was a nice switch. It's a good choice.
I agree. Cool. So now, do you have an extra point for this week, Mr. Christopher?
I do, but you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to let you go first.
All right. So for my extra point this week, I feel like that really was my extra point, the random rankings, because I'm feeling like, again, I've been doing a lot of work to educate myself about, politics, to educate myself about the First Amendment. I've really been trying to educate myself. And in some ways, that has been very enlightening, but it's also been very maddening, because as I see people who try to ignore what they learn, or they try to be, say, well, that doesn't exist or whatever. Like, it's upon me to make the best decision for myself in that way, right? Because I am educating myself. I'm doing the best that I can do. And I think that random rankings was helpful for me, because I found that in my own life, like, honestly, ever since it started snowing here, like I don't leave the house. Like I've
Yeah.
gone to the store, I've done very minimal things, but talking about like my walks have been taken away. Like yes, I have an exercise bike here, but hopping on this exercise bike for 30 minutes is not as fun as going and walking through the Root River Parkway where I see deer and birds and all of these things and I smell all of these nice and sometimes not so nice smells. I mean, you know how rivers can be, but
Yeah.
like sometimes it's good to know where you're at and then look forward to better times, right? Because you do everything that you can do to survive today, but also know that while tomorrow is not guaranteed, you can make the best of your tomorrow if you get your tomorrow. Because there's been a lot of things going on in our world. And one thing that I didn't touch on is there was a professional wrestler who died the day after Christmas, and everybody was like shocked by this because they were like, he's such a great guy and like he's done so much for all of these people. And, he was 41 years old. I'm going to be 39 in, you know, 5 months. So, like, a lot of these things are things that I think about. It's like tomorrow, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So, my life mentality is always what can I do to get through today? But I'm also trying to think about what can I do in my life to make tomorrow a better day if I get it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's always a balance that we have to work on, right? Is how do I make the most of what I have today, but don't do so at the sake of sacrificing tomorrow, right?
Right. And not assuming that tomorrow is going to be there
Yeah,
to put things off to tomorrow.
right. Cool.
What
It's
do
a
you
good
got
point.
for us, Christopher?
I've had an interesting week, and I know that you, Brian, are familiar with some of that, but um, it's been an interesting week. I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of work internally and on myself, and a lot of other stuff outside of that. But I was flipping through the old Facebook, or maybe it was the Twitter, or it was the something today, and stumbled onto one of the multiple magical quotes that always show up because everyone's got a stupid quote for something. But this one made me stop because it was Martin Luther King Jr., who we celebrate on Monday. I guess today is his birthday, right? I believe. And we celebrate that on Monday. And the quote, which I think probably everybody has heard: darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And it made me stop and think for a second. Especially today, because of all days, this is the day we do the podcast, which is generally when I like to yell and scream and swear and pound on the desk and do all that crazy stuff. And of late, it's been very angry and very hateful against certain individuals, specifically, right? These right wing people that are causing so much chaos, and they're spreading their own hate. And so for the longest time, I think I looked at that and just excused that behavior from myself. Kind of taking the approach that if we've got this group of people who are yelling and screaming their bloody hatred, then how can I be heard if I'm not yelling and screaming myself? And so that's really the approach I've taken. As anybody who's paid attention and listened to this podcast would know, I'm generally the one that gets very, very loud and boisterous, and I did that some tonight too. But looking at this quote really made me think about kind of the way that I look at the world as a whole, which is we really need more love in the world. Like, the world is full of hate and vitriol and all this division and derision and all this garbage. And we really need more love. And so that quote really hit me like a hammer on the side of the head. That I need to work on myself for some of that. And especially with this podcast in mind. And try to look at the ways that I can share more love. And I think I do a decent job of that. I don't think I'm a horrible fucking person. You can correct me if you think I'm wrong. But I can do better. I can do more, and I want to do more. So I think that the fact that it was a Martin Luther King quote on his birthday and on the weekend when we're celebrating his life, and somebody who was an amazing person who did so much for people in general in this country, but specifically for Black people. The fact that this year has been what it has been, or last year was what it was for Black people and for all people in this country, to wake up and open their eyes and see things that maybe some of us didn't see before. I frankly didn't see it. How could I see it? I'm a fucking old white guy. I don't get to see that stuff. And now I can see it. Now I know about it. So I thought it was very poignant that that was the quote, and that was the person that kind of came up organically through my, you know, scrolling on the old social media. So yeah, so I guess that's my message is, I think all of us could spread more love than we do anger and hate. I think love is too damn important to set aside. As Brian said, don't wait until tomorrow. Just spread love, to share love, to tell people you love them. Do that today. Do that now. And when it comes to those situations where it's very easy to react negatively or aggressively or angrily, try to react with love. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I got, B.
Sounds good. Well, if you all would like to spread some love to us, I will let you know where you can find us. So you can find us on social media. I am on Twitter at LandmarkMKE. Skonzi is on Twitter at SKONZII. As a production, we are at AQ_PROD. You can also find us on Facebook, Almost Qualified Productions. You can find Skonzi on Patreon if you search for Skonzi. And you can find this podcast in your favorite podcast app if you search for We Random, or at our home base, anchor.fm/We Random. Now, do you have any other words of wisdom for the people today, Christopher?
I do not think I do.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all for listening. We want to make sure that you know that we appreciate your continued support. You know, we're feeling 22 here on episode 22, a little bit of T-Swizz in there for you, but we appreciate that we've made it this far. You know, this is almost half a year of podcasts, and for a podcast that it probably took 2 years to get to half a year, I'm very proud of what we've done, and we look forward to talking with you all next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.